Lane. We are BFFs dedicated. Hi, welcome to Cliterally Speaking the podcast. I'm Michelle Doherty.
And I'm Emily Lane.
We are BFFs dedicated to bringing you conversations between girlfriends over a bottle of wine.
Oh, I am so excited about the wine part.
Oh, me too. So pull up a chair, grab your glass,
and let's get talking.
Hey, Emily, how are you today?
Hey, Michelle. I'm good. It feels a little bit like a wacky Wednesday over here. We had a little bit of problems getting in. And it just, like, from the start was a wacky Wednesday,
Yeah.
which is very appropriate for our time of the month. How are you feeling, Michelle?
Okay, tell me, how has your day been wacky?
Well, it started off
I'm feeling fine.
good. So you're not so wacky. Awesome.
No. So we have to take a little time while we're talking to each other, not to talk over each other because of the little minute delay in the broadcast software. So
It's
hopefully our
true.
listeners and viewers will bear with us.
Yeah,
But
we are still playing COVID safe. Michelle, you're getting ready to go visit your mom, and we're making sure to social distance
tomorrow.
accurately, and technology just hasn't quite caught up to us yet.
No. And we actually need technology to really operate in like real time. We needed to react just as soon as the words come out of our mouth.
So should we do like little puppet shows in between, like be like "Mer, mer, mer, mer," something to keep us moving forward, even when we're not talking?
I think we need to have hand gestures like your turn.
Take it over.
Now,
So yeah.
my turn. I'm talking. Anyway, we'll get through it. Our viewers and listeners, let us know how we're doing. Tell us hello in the comments, because I'm afraid to try to do one more thing technologically where we won't even be able to know that you're there, and we'll end the broadcast, and I'll have to drink all this wine by myself and not with Emily tonight. So
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to sharing some wine tonight. Being that it's been a wacky Wednesday, I'm ready to devour the contents of this bottle within our conversation. So I have pulled this awesome, yummy little bottle. It's a Pinot Grigio, which, typically I have to say, I'm not like a lover of Pinot Grigio. But this little bottle showed up in a wine merchant collection, and I was like, oh man, Pinot Grigio. And I had it, and I was like, oh my God, this is a delicious Pinot Grigio. So it's a little bit more supple than what I'm familiar with this grape. I think it's got some of those bright citrusy notes that you're kind of used to, but then there's this like stone minerality that makes it feel like this is something from the old French world. It's really yummy. So I'm pretty excited to be drinking this, and it's easy drinking, which is appropriate for today. And you, Michelle?
definitely appropriate for today. So I am drinking this Clos Napa. It is a Cabernet Sauvignon. I have drank it before. I think on another live. I think I have. It's a nice deep red. So easy to go down. It is has a wonderful smell, and I know it's a really great bottle. Not only because I love to drink it, but when I opened the bottle yesterday, and my not yet of age son said, "Ooh, that smells good." So he is already a connoisseur. He had, it passed the smell test for him. And then so yeah, it's deep, it's complex, it's tells great stories, and it falls in our $18 a bottle at the wine merchant.
Will has always had great taste. You know this. And so it doesn't surprise me one bit that
He has.
even though
Yes.
he's not of age, he's like, ooh, there's something going on over there. So clearly he's been listening to our podcast.
Clearly. And I would say that I think the best gift that we could give him knowledge is his starter seller pack.
Yes. So, hey, I'm seeing some people are joining us today, which I'm really excited. Mish Hancock, hello. So happy to see you here. Mish was our very first guest on our podcast. We also have Gaucha, my neighbor Gaucha Berlin, this amazing artist. Hello, Gaucha. My mom. Oh my God. We have some good friends saying
Hi,
hello.
I'm Emily's mom.
I know. I love it. I'm so happy. So happy our friends are joining us. There's more I can't quite see because there's so many bubbles of friends joining. Hello, everyone. Thank you. So let us know what you were drinking today and how you're doing. And we're going to be talking about, I think a pretty interesting conversation tonight. So we're going to be interested in hearing your thoughts on it. Michelle, do you want to prop this up?
I do. Before we get into the meat of our conversation today, I wanted to give a heads up to all of the St. Louis viewers that the Brook and Bull shipment from Walla Walla, Washington, is in at the wine merchant. I have already picked up my bottles, and I cannot wait to try them. But I wanted to let you guys know that Brook and Bull is in at the wine merchant because the other place, Southside Wine and Liquors, doesn't exist anymore. So the only place we can get it now is at the wine merchant. And we love Brook and Bull.
Locally in St. Louis. Like, if you're outside of St. Louis, look for it because it is worth looking for. We had her, the winemaker and proprietor of the winery, on one of our episodes. Ashley, it was not only a fascinating conversation, but wow, we got to taste through an entire portfolio of her wine, which was amazing. And now we eagerly chase it down whenever it's available because it's pretty small production. So we're like, we need to get our hands on it as quickly as possible.
And it was a year ago almost when she was here. So it's kind of like
True.
The beginning of pandemic when she showed up for our interview, and now her wine is available again. That means a year has passed.
That's a fair point. Oh my God, you're right. Because I remember the kind of that note of, this is a pandemic, things are shutting down, and she had just arrived into St. Louis. Yeah, there it is.
Right, and it'll be a couple weeks. We're going to be through this. It'll be fine.
Oh my God.
And now we're back at her wine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank God for wine. Yeah. So, Michelle, you heard this incredible episode on the Hidden Rain, which really launched the concept for our conversation tonight about the marriage contract. And so, I want you to why don't you share your discovery of this episode and the questions that came to mind and how we kind of decided to be like, oh, this is a perfect time of the month kind of conversation.
Sure. I mean, who doesn't want to talk about relationships during their time of the month? I mean, what better time actually to evaluate relationships than when you might be crampy, you just want to lay in your bed. I mean, so many people have made decisions about their relationships at that point of time.
And it's Valentine's month, right? We're in February. It's the month of love.
Valentine's month.
Yeah. Right. And we've been stuck with our partners for a year now. COVID.
Looked at the same faces now for 365 days. Now, I came across the episode when I was, I am a the person who just devours podcasts, and I'm always looking for things that I'm going to learn and think of, because I can't listen to us all the time. I have to listen to other people. And I came across Hidden Brain. It's been out there for a long time. I know I'm late to the party. I realize that. And scrolling through, I came across the episode. It was from 2018, but the topic was like, why do we make marriage so difficult? And in the conversation of throughout, and he had two great authors on talking about, what did we think about what were marriages, why were they initially set up, and how have they evolved to today, and like how have like our ideas of marriage affected our own relationships.
Throughout, and
Just it had a lot of
great
interesting things to think about, and sometimes I hear myself.
I know. Do you love it?
uh, I, I get speechless. I'm like, look at listen to me. Hold on. So what hit me, and the reason I like turned you onto the episode, Emily, is because there were a lot of things in there about relationships and about expectations and about perspective and about societal expectations. We have our personal expectations, and then there's society's expectations as well.
Right.
And at the end of it, when it was all over, I thought, wow, I feel kind of more solid in my own decision to not have remarried yet. I've been single now for 18 years, and in that 18-year time, I've known people who've gotten married and divorced a few times.
Right.
And I've just been single. So it kind of just made me think about like why. And some of those expectations or desires that people want to have in a relationship um, are they call it like Maslow's mountain, like hierarchy of needs. And so I have like an ideal of what kind of relationship that I want to have. And at the end of that episode, it was like, it's okay that's the type of relationship I want to have. And I know we've talked about that before on the show, but I thought that there were some interesting aspects that we could delve into on today's time of the month, like really discuss and get to like the meat of it. There are no wrong answers. And that's the other beautiful thing about that episode. How you want to define your relationship or your marriage is really up to you.
Yeah. There's a lot that you just positioned there in that setup, Michelle. And I think it's, first of all, I want to say I applaud those that have, married and divorced and married and divorced and married again, because in my mind, I feel like these are people who have not given up the idea of love. And, despite the hardship of divorce, which you and I have both been through, they're going after it again. And then oops, they've divorced one more time and still go there again, which gives me great hope in optimism and people looking for the ideal, and I really applaud that kind of fearlessness to not let the past hold you back and continue to explore. I think things have evolved a lot. They'll go there again, which gives me feedback I'm not quite sure how to resolve. I heard myself just now. But I do think that,
isn't it crazy when that happens?
Oh my God, yeah, it is. I'm like, that's how I sound. But yeah, absolutely. The marriage, the concept of marriage, I think from the early days of the constructs of its roots and how it was originally designed to maybe the idealism of our younger culture coming in. I think there's been a major shift, socially speaking, in and what our expectations of marriage are, and it's ever evolving as we are as a human species. And so yeah, I think it's worth kind of like talking about our early ideas and social ideas, and what you know the breadth of our understanding of them. And by the way, I want to give a quick shout out because I see Preston
Yeah.
Jackson is joining us. Hello, Mr. Preston Jackson. My God, one of
Hey,
my
Preston.
favorite people of all times. Incredible, world renowned artist. And we have John Lazaro, Lon Bronson, earlier guest on our podcast, an amazing musician and music director from Las Vegas. We have some really wonderful people joining us. Thank you for joining. So, Michelle, handing it over.
So I can't see who's joining us, so I'm just going to say hey to everybody whenever you get on. Hey, I'm so glad. Your best way to let us know that you're here is to, put a comment in or say hello in our comments, just like they do on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Let me know where here you are in the comments.
Yeah.
But I think an interesting aspect of the concept of marriage, and one of the say challenges that people might have today, is putting yesterday's yestergeneration yesteryear centuries idea of what marriage looks like onto today. When they said it historically, marriages were to fortify the villages, have bigger plots of land. It was like a negotiation between two families. What was going to make the area stronger. Not People don't get married normally, don't get married for those reasons today. I know I did not marry my ex-husband because I thought, oh, this will be great. We'll combine the Ratcliffe family of Mississippi and the Doherty family of Oklahoma, and we'll take over the world. That wasn't what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's very Bridgerton or Game of Thrones, right?
Right. The early days. But now
Yeah.
today, people get married because they love somebody, because they think they should get married, because they want to have children and they're at that time of their life. The reasons people get married today are probably, and this thought just came to me, there's probably not such a definition about why you get married, so it might be scarier, or you might consider it a higher risk to marry today. Maybe these are just my thoughts. I'm happy to bounce this back and forth with anybody. Like, when you were like in the 50s, women got married because that's what you did, and you had babies and you raised them and you lived happily ever after. Correct? Right? That's what they did. And then, but now, it's not such a necessity. You don't have to get married. You can have children and not be married.
Well, there's
Thoughts?
definitely this kind of path, right? There's this, you you're in a relationship and you're young years. It's like, okay, yes, I think part of it is very physically driven, where the clock is ticking, and this is what there's like this social thing of this is what we're supposed to do. There's also this very biological thing that's chiming in, and then this is just the path that our parents have laid out and everybody else has laid out. So I think that is evolving. If you look in recent eras, women's liberation and various things that have come into play, it has become more acceptable to wait a little bit later. Like, you're not seeing as many people get married right out of high school. Like, they're waiting until they're getting into their jobs and starting to be a little bit more financially secure before they get married and start their families, which I think is awesome. I love the fact that people are waiting until they're a little bit older to start their marital lives. And I think that's really wise, because I think, I look back at my life, I really, man, oh man, I don't think I really started to understand myself until I was in my 30s. So how can you find a partner for life when you're still trying to figure out who you are as a person? So I like the fact that the expectations of when you're starting your forever life with your partner is starting to shift back. I hope that means that, you know, lifelong partnerships will last longer as a result of the fact that people are coming together later in their life.
Well, we don't know yet.
Right.
We'll have to let some time go on and find out if some of those people who've married at 28, 29 years old are staying married longer. I know, like I would be a much better um, partner and spouse now because of I'm just older and wiser and all those things that go with maturity than when I was 24 when I married. But the double edge of the sword is I can't have babies when I'm 51, right?
Well, you can.
Biologically,
You can.
well,
It just
I don't
might
want
take a
to.
little extra science. And in your 50s, you can afford it.
Well, and not necessarily because you got to you're thinking about retirement, and I would hate to be starting like a baby right now. If I would be 70 when they graduated high school. That would be
I mean,
awful.
70
But
means something different
but I
now than
think
it did
that
then. 70 is a different age. 50 is a different age. 40 is a different age. I mean, you
no,
know,
you're not going to talk me into having another baby, Emily. No matter what you say, you're not going to talk me into that.
I'm not trying to convince
Well,
you to
yeah,
have another baby. I'm
but
just
people are getting
saying
married.
that it's possible.
For
Hello,
somebody out
Amanda.
there, but I do not
Amanda is
intend to
definitely
be
like on your side, Michelle.
the
Amanda's
hey
like,
Amanda.
wait, you can't retire until you're 70 plus. Like, that's wrong.
Probably like close to 80 because you'll have to put that kid through college, so that puts you at 75 by the time they graduate. You know,
Yeah.
I think Amanda and we see eye to eye. I see you, Amanda. I see you. But I think it is good though that people wait, that they're not getting, that they don't get married right out of college, or they might wait a few years because you just got, you have to, everybody has to grow up,
Mm-hmm.
everybody has to grow up.
Yeah.
Well, so about the thing about the marriage, why we make marriage so hard podcast, and is that the idea of having to keep a marriage together. And you look at some people married 50, 60 years. We celebrate that. We're like, oh my God, how did they managed to stay happily married for 60 years? And we don't necessarily know if that was happily married.
Yeah.
But we do kind of put some kind of like them put on a pedestal, like, oh, like this fun aura, like the leaves of gold around. But people some people say that you should power through. You should really try hard to stay married. And others are
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm really in love with them, and I'm not really happy anymore. You know,
Right.
I think I should. I'm going to get divorced. I mean, what do you think about that as one of the phenomena of why people are not staying in marriages?
I'm so sad for them, because it's like staying in a job that you hate forever because it's got a good retirement package, like if and when you finally get to retire, are you really going to be able to live fully and happily? Like, the stress of carrying the burden of working day to day in a job you hate takes a toll, much like living in a relationship that doesn't quite fulfill you. Not to mention the fact that, when you're in a healthy relationship, you know the energy that is spurred from being in this safe and happy environment, you get ideas, you get inspiration, you're living, and if you're not getting that in your relationship, then you're doing the exact opposite, right? So I think it's really sad that there's so much pressure to hit that gold leaf ideal that you were painting, of let's endure, man. Let's it's better to stay married than not. And I appreciate not giving up, but I also, especially if there's something to fight for, but I'm really sad for those who feel obligated to stay because that is what they feel they're supposed to do, rather than chasing their dreams. And
Well,
you,
I mean, do we
Michelle?
as a society make it attract? I'm sorry. I said, do we as a society make it easier for people to end a relationship, end a marriage, or do we make it harder on them? I'm just throwing it out there because I remember when I was getting divorced, and I mean, my ex-husband and I no longer loved each other. I mean, that was pretty much, that was spoken.
Mhm.
And when people were like, "Why are you getting divorced?" I was like, "Well, we don't love each other anymore." And people
Yeah.
didn't understand that. And I had to like throw in all of these other things that he had done me wrong by, right? And then they were like, "Oh yeah, leave his ass, kick him to the curb," kind of thing. They just
Yeah.
couldn't accept that fact that there was no more love there as a marriage, right? Like I no longer wanted to be married to him. I didn't want to have that sort
Yeah.
of relationship with him. But people, now again, that was 18 years ago. Would people think differently now? I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, do we make it harder or easier? I mean, do people
I,
bail before they should or not?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know statistics on that. I can say that I feel collectively as a people, divorce is more common now than it was 20 years ago, than it was 50 years ago, and I think that people are more open with talking publicly about these things than they ever have before. And the rise of social media and access to information is greater than it's ever been, which supports people being able to have active conversations and make fresh decisions for themselves. um, I think that, you know it's I think it's important to not let decisions of the past inform how we should be acting today, because we are an ever evolving culture in society. And you know, I don't think people, I mean, I'm only speaking for myself. Like, when I went through a divorce, I didn't make that decision lightly nor quickly. It took years and years to come to that decision. And I don't think that people are just going, poof, this is over. I'm going to start over. It's very difficult to start your life over. So I don't think the trend of saying I want more for my life is catching fire and disrupting the age of marriage,
It'll never be the same again.
Right, right. Divorce is happening, Uh-oh, it's a pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. And I read online somewhere that we've had more divorces in 2020 than we had in 2019.
I
And they
believe
think
it.
it's because we had to look at the same 365 days.
Yeah. I mean, my goodness, because people used to get their
Sometimes
break. You go into work, you traveled, you got your inspiration from other sources. And now if that inspiration channel is cut off, and now you're just having to, get
yeah.
it all in this very localized sphere, that's very challenging. We've had a lot of babies and we've had a lot of divorces.
Well, and that's one of the right. And they don't necessarily people. One of the things that in that a podcast episode from Hidden Brain was I'm not gonna call this a mistake, but a tendency. A tendency in marriages is to require everything, all of your needs to be met by your partner.
Oh,
Because you
right.
think that that partner should be everything, right?
Mm.
Um, and that can definitely lead to the downfall of that relationship. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think that's a very dangerous position to put your partner in. I think, and that's definitely been a challenge of COVID. Our worlds have gotten smaller. And so, you know,
Hmm.
that need to depend on those closest to us to fulfill us intellectually, spiritually, inspirationally has risen. But I think we need to
Physically,
right. I think we also, we need to challenge ourselves to be curious independently. And that is definitely a new dynamic. Think about it. Like whenever you've had a tough day at work, how many times you're like, girls, I need a drink. Let's go out. You're depending on your friends to get you out of your frustration and get a fresh new angle on the day. And within this last year, we haven't been able to do that. And so I think this concept that you're talking about, where the partner the dependency on our partner provide it all, completely problematic. It's definitely exaggerated now, because even more so if you are in a partnered relationship, we're dependent upon it, because of close proximity and the compression of everything being much more localized. But I think that we individually need to really strive to entertain ourselves and be always curious and share that with those that are around us, because you never know what they can contribute to that inspiration.
I think if I could tell, a 20-something-year-old who's considering getting married, I would want them to know to have them understand and like to their core that their happiness is on them, right? That their partner, it's not fair to put your happiness on that partner. Now, yeah, people don't need to be shitty to each other. I mean,
Right.
just because like my happiness comes from me doesn't mean that you get to be shitty to me because you're not responsible for my happiness, right? But for
Mm.
people to enter into a relationship with the only expectation is that the love you have for each other continues to grow, right?
I think that's really
If you go
fair.
in with like he or she needs to be they're responsible for feeding me, clothing me, housing me, meeting my emotional needs, meeting my physical needs, you're destined to have problems. And
Well,
that's an
that's not a
awful lot to put
partnership.
on somebody, and that's an awful lot to have put on your it's a like a parent-child relationship, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, that's a dependency. That's not a partnership.
And
Yeah.
so, if we could just continue to talk about, that that I think, and maybe I'm too idealistic, and it's still why I have not remarried, is that a partnership should and could and would like bring the best out of you,
Yeah.
and support you in like not necessarily in like dollars and cents, but like just makes you, as Jack Nicholson said, you make me want to be a better man, right?
Yeah.
And as good as it gets. When you're with when it's a relationship that's right and working, you just want to be better to them and they want to be better
Yeah.
to you and you want to just be better for each other.
So let me ask you this, Michelle. There are factions of people who
Mhm.
are kind of this mindset where, let's renew this partnership, if it's a marriage or a domestic partnership relationship, every 5 or 10 years. Like we're not it isn't
Right,
necessarily a
right.
forever till death do us part kind of thing. It's a, hey, let's, as long as we're on the same path and still loving each other, we'll recommit. But let's just think about this in life cycles. What is your feeling about that?
So I think that that could be a very good tool for a lot of people. I know that that is scary idea for some folks, and I remember when I was one of the people I was had dated in these last 18 years. I tried to kind of like give him that idea because he, from like the very beginning of us dating, he was like, "Well, I know we're gonna break up. Well, I know we're gonna break up." And I always kept saying, "Well, why do you keep focusing on the fact that I know eventually we're gonna break up?" And then so I said to him, I was like, "Well, why don't we just say, like, let's just date, and in like 6 months, let's reevaluate." He's like, "Oh no, I can't do that." I was like, because I just wanted him to stop talking about, well, I know we're gonna end up breaking up, and we ended up breaking up, like, like a month after I thought of I proposed that idea to him. Um, so he was right on a breakup. Now, again, I think it could be a good tool for some people, like maybe that idea of till death do us part is too much,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Also, fretting about this
So
inevitable
maybe
future
commit.
is very sad.
Hmm. Hmm. So if hey, I'm in this for 5 years and I can reevaluate this in 5 years and we will both have the conversation, because a lot of times people get married and they don't continue to have the conversation.
Yeah.
They just act like this, right? Like, oh, you're here, I'm here. We're not gonna have that conversation about us. Um, I think it's a very good tool. What are your thoughts? Or is this idea scary to you, or have some
I think it's
merit?
a I think it's a healthy approach in that we should just always, as a couple, be growing together and evaluate, are we growing together? Do we still have the same ideas for our life, for what we want out of our life, for who we want to be, where we want to go in the next 5 years, And so having a proactive conversation about that, I think, is really powerful in, are we staying together or are we falling apart? um, I think a lot of times these conversations don't happen out of fear for, like you were talking about, your guy was like, I don't even talk about like 6 months from we could be falling apart. Like he was so afraid at the future demise that he wasn't fully in it. And so if we can be fully in it with this safe understanding of, we can be fully in it now, and maybe 10 years from now, it's not right for us to be fully in it together, but let's be fully in it now and love and respect each other enough to recognize that we might develop and evolve and we still want the best for each other. So I think it's really powerful It's about creating strong and open communication in a very safe way. And wow, is that challenging. So I'm not sure how to do that safely, but I think this is amazing.
I think it's a good tool. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
everything that you said, again, it comes down to communication. And one of the things that they talk about in relationships, and we all know that, money becomes a problem when the kids come, becomes a problem. The people's sex, they're like, oh, I like to have sex all the time. I don't like to have sex all the time.
Yeah.
They're like, there's all of these things that people have, like, they're common issues in a relationship. And what I liked about that episode, and the author, I'll have to remember his name in a minute. They talked about, like, things you can do within your marriage to strengthen it, and he called it love hacks.
Hmm.
And that, yeah, just he called it love hacks. And one of the things he said was, like, diversification. You talked about, my girlfriends and I, and we had talked earlier, like, all my needs have to be met by my partner or my spouse, and he talked about diversification in your life. And you have to have your friends, you have to have people you're going to exercise with. Can you imagine if you forced your fiance Ken to walk with you every week, and
Oh my
like
gosh.
you do that with Denise, right?
Right.
Can you imagine? No, Ken, we're gonna
Oh,
go out, and
it
we're
wouldn't
gonna
work.
we're gonna drink wine, and we're gonna walk a marathon,
Nope.
and it
Nope.
would
It
not
would
be
have been
enjoyable
over
for
years
you
ago.
or for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right,
You
right.
know?
So you diversify. Now,
Yeah.
some issues with, but, like, if like, you expand your circle so that those needs aren't that's not such a burden on your partner or on you, right? So
Right.
diversification. Some of the yeah,
So
some of the other
on
love
this,
hacks was,
oh,
thinking. Go ahead, go ahead.
no, go
No, no, no,
back
you
because
go, you go.
well, I was just like on this
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
diversification conversation. Something that a lot of couples explore is,
Mhm.
let's go down this open relationship path. Like, let's try playing around. Let's try either bringing someone in or giving each other space to explore, and then that way we're getting various physical or emotional needs met, but we still have our safe place of our home familial unit. And so this is a very, as far as like public and social conversation goes, it's becoming more a part of it. And I'm very interested in your thoughts on it. I kind of have gone in and out of my understanding of this conversation, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Michelle.
So in the love hacks, they call that consensual non-monogamy. So that, in my mind, that also falls along the folks that are polyamorous, right?
Yes.
Because they're very, and, like, they talk about this, right? They're in a relationship, a committed relationship, but they really, they'd like to tap that over there. They think that's a really nice piece of ass, and
Right.
they'd like to tap that. They don't necessarily want to create a whole, new relationship with that. And as long as, so the difference of, like, consensual non-monogamy is that it's upfront, and there's a consent, like, both parties consent to it. So let's say, so just as an example, like, my divorce, it was not consensual non-monogamy.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, may maybe had he talked to me about it in advance, maybe
And
things would
then
have
you
been a
could have
little
gone and got
different.
some too. Right.
Exactly, exactly. However, so that, again, that's a tool for people, right? It's That's not going to work for everyone. I think it takes a very secure, in there person and total agency to be able to battle feelings of jealousy,
Mm-hmm.
curiosity, some resentment. Your man, your partner, is tapping that over there. There's always going to be that little thought of like, what if he prefers that? What if
Yeah.
what if like, so you have to be really, really, it's communication, right? And I think if you're the partner, like if you're actively hitting tapping something else, and as much effort into the relationship that you're, what they call the primary relationship, your marriage, or your committed relationship, you got to make that person feel just as special and important to you, because it's hard, right? It's hard to it's hard to feel special and loved when you know that they found somebody else attractive, and they wanted to
Yeah.
hit that for a little bit.
Yeah, I think what you talked about, like it takes a special person to have that self-awareness and agency to be okay with these insecurities that can pop in, and that I think this is something I'm not fully equipped with personally. I think that my personal feeling would be, um, and this could be a generational thing, I don't know, but uh, I just feel that if somebody needs to expand beyond a relationship that is deeply meaningful and powerful, I feel like there's an absence there. And I'm sad that the person is going through that kind of struggle in their relationship, that they're having to feed that absence in another way. Now, I know that in relationships we feed our absences with friendships and other things, but I'm thinking in a sexual relationship, to have to go out and get satisfaction outside our partnerships says to me that there's a greater problem. And what this is just me, I'm not, like I have no scientific evidence here, but
Right.
personally very I would feel like, okay, so there's a bigger problem here. So I would be interested to learn, and maybe an interest, like something we can research and talk about. Um, what are the percentage of couples that go down this polyamorous approach as a way to expand their marriage? Like, how many of them stay married? You know, how many of them find the satisfaction they need
Yeah.
and the happiness and fulfillment? And my God, if that's what they find, hallelujah, I'm so happy for them. I really am. I'm just hopeful it's not an excuse to get to live another life with the safety of this existing life, while guess what? There's a bigger life for you. That's my quandary.
I I think it would be hard. I mean,
Mhm.
we should probably maybe invite onto our podcast maybe a polyamory couple that we can talk about. So
I think
not
so
we can talk about,
too.
we can
Yeah.
talk with.
Yeah.
Um,
I think so too. It's fascinating.
but I also feel like sometimes I was gonna say is that sometimes in a relationship, one of the partners, like maybe like something's happened. Maybe they've had, some cancer, or they've had something that's affected their libido, and it is just gone, right?
Sure.
Do you think in not and this is, within the marriage, right? Like, would would it be of a loving gesture to say to that partner, please, I mean, I'm not, there's nothing here, right? Nothing's working here. So please, I know that that's an outlet, and it's not
Oh,
fair for me to make you not express your sexual side, right? Um, I think the key to the success of those relationships is constant communication. Constant
totally agree. Totally agree.
communication
We're
than
never
than
going
you
to
and I have
understand.
ever experienced in our lives.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we're never going to understand the full dynamics of every individual relationship. And I think that there are, you know, I mean, scenarios like that are really beautiful and giving and understanding of a someone we love and their needs and what's going to help them feel fulfilled. And that is really giving and really trusting. And I think if you're going into this consensual non-monogamy kind of relationship, the trust level just has to be there. Otherwise, how can it really work, you know?
You have to know that they are, yeah, you have to totally know they're coming back, right?
Mhm.
And w- yeah, you have to totally trust. And I think that trust is probably a quality within marriages and relationships, committed relationships, is probably the most tenuous. The thing that can be broken easier than anything else because
Oh,
there's probably
interesting.
not enough communication, you
Isn't
know?
that interesting? Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Spot
I
on,
mean,
Michelle.
sometimes you just step on the yeah, you know? I mean, it's just like
Yeah.
it's a really, really wonderful podcast episode on Hidden Brain. It's called Why Do We Make Marriage So Difficult? They have a lot of great things to think about, history wise, current, today. I mean, it just really, in like 57 minutes, you can be expanded quite a bit. I know I was, and I know
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
what my takeaway was, that I have an ideal. It is not an
Ideal.
outrageous ideal. What? Yeah, I have a relationship, right? It is not outrageous. It is not something that I and when that person when that happens, it's going to be right, and it'll be the right thing for me. And to not worry so much about society's expectations, you know. And the other
Yeah.
thing is, one other aspect was that, who are we to say what works or what's supposed to work in relationships, right? Who are we?
Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We've talked about our
Yeah,
opinions in all these various scenarios, and the truth of it is, that's my opinion, and I don't care as long as you feel good and you're doing what's right for you. Where I care is when you're a loved one and you are suppressed, unhappy, not living to your full potential. And that's where, again, I'm not going to judge you. I'm just going to be here to support you. But I mean, let's
right.
face it, we all know it, relationships are hard, right? but
Yeah,
um but man,
they,
in the end, they
but,
should elevate
but
you,
they can
not depress you.
exactly. Well, Emily, this has been, as you know, it's always fun. Our time of the months are so different than everybody else's time of the months. We drink wine, we talk about relationships and other stuff. uh, I am so glad that our friends have joined face, stuck around for this interesting conversation. We appreciate you guys so
Yeah,
much.
we love you.
Um, and we will, of course, be back next month. Um, yeah. And we have like the whole echoing thing, even at the end. So,
I
like,
know.
review us, rate us, go on
Yeah.
iTunes, all of those things. We really appreciate it. We love you guys. And, cheers, Emily.
Yeah.
Can you
Cheers.
bring that
Happy
glass
time of the
in?
month. Yeah. There we go. Oh,
Ching!
oh, I went too far. Ching, ching.
Sorry.